Before we get into the video, make sure y'all hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. I mean, come on, what are you doing if you're not subbed to me by now? My content is fire, from stop motions, news videos, reviews, music occasionally. All my social media accounts are linked down below, and now, let's get straight to it. Okay, so, as you can tell by the title, this is my official review for Transformers Rise of the Beast, going into non-spoilers first. Then we will head into spoilers. So if you're complaining in the comments that you got spoiled watching this review, it's clearly said in the video and in the title that firstly, non-spoilers, then I will openly talk about spoilers in this movie. So if you don't want to hear about spoilers, click off when I start talking about spoilers, because I'll give another warning right when I get into it. So, I gotta say, I really love this movie. This might be my favorite Transformers movie, and I know for some of you watching this, that's not a high bar to, pass, but for me, I grew up with Bayformers. I love the first three movies. Age of Extinction, it gets a little bit dicey, but I still enjoy some of it. The Last Night, I absolutely hate. I actually rewatched it like a week ago, and I still hate that movie. There's a couple things, that you could say is kind of cool, but, I mean, that movie is terrible. Bumblebee I like. It feels generic, like, really generic. It feels like a typical 80s movie, alien meets teenager. So, I like that movie. It was a step in the right direction, but it didn't feel like a Transformers movie. The robots didn't have a lot of screen time. There weren't a lot of Transformers characters in it to begin with, and I feel like people just hyped that up because of the opening Cybertron sequence that only lasts like 2.5 minutes. So Bumblebee was decent. But this movie, Rise of the Beast, is a true Sorry about that, I had somebody call me. But what I was saying, Rise of the Beast here is a true return to form for Transformers stuff in general, with the movies and just media. It just feels like I'm watching a live-action Transformers cartoon here. I absolutely love it. If you haven't seen it, please go out there, go see Rise of the Beast, watch it multiple times if you want to. I'm gonna go see it a second time in the coming days. I don't know when, but I definitely plan on seeing it again. I really love it. It is a fantastic Transformers movie. I do have my issues with it, which I will be getting into in my spoiler review, which is coming up here soon. But the way they do the characters, just the pacing, even though I have some issues which I'll touch on later. But yeah, I really love the movie. I don't want to put a rating on it just yet. Maybe at the end of the video I'll rate it, because y'all sort of realized I stopped doing ratings like out of 10 on this channel. I used to do it on my reviews and my stop motion reviews, but I kind of stopped doing that in recent reviews because I kind of want to stop putting a number or a rating on things, because I feel like the numbers and the ratings that I give don't really totally reflect my feeling on the figure, and I feel like it isn't a definitive rating, so I just want to give my feelings and thoughts on things and let you guys be the judge on whether you like something or don't like something, or if you want to watch or buy something, or you don't want to buy or watch something. So that's kind of why I stopped doing ratings, but I feel like I kind of have a good rating that really puts it into perspective for you guys on how I feel about this movie, that I'm thinking I might want to put at the end of this video, but I'm not sure yet. But spoilers. This will be the spoiler-filled review, so if you want to click off now, click off now if you haven't seen the movie. But if you've seen the movie, listen to what I got to say here. I'm going to be looking at my laptop here a lot, like I always do on these videos, because I have my notes written down on my pros and cons. So first up here, this feels like a live-action Transformers cartoon, like from start to finish. Minimal humans in it. The robots, everything, the comedy, just everything. It feels like I'm watching a live-action cartoon that lasts more than 20 minutes. Like, it is so fun. But I was taken out of the moment a little bit, because if you guys watched my video from yesterday, my initial reaction to it coming out of the theater, there were two parents that brought 10 kids into the theater, okay? They sat all in the same row right in front of me. 10 kids, people. Toddlers and kids that were like 9 or 10 years old at the oldest, So they were loud and obnoxious for about 70% or 80% of the time, and it took me out of the experience a little bit. I'm not going to lie. So if I don't remember things, or if I don't mention things, or if I don't go into detail about things too well, that's exactly why. One of my worst theater experiences I've had, and that's one of the reasons why I'm going to go see it again a second time. But the main reason is because I absolutely love how this movie came out. The opening sequence is fantastic. The way they introduce Unicron and Scourge, it has that whole horror aspect to it. The way they shot it, the angles, the lighting, very thriller horror-esque, which I really, really love. The Ape Link and Optimus Primal relationship you see is really short because Ape Link does die by Scourge. But the emotion you feel when Ape Link and Optimus Primal have that last talk before they go their separate ways is absolutely fantastic. And they butt heads and they hug. That is something you never see in a Transformers movie in terms of the Transformers characters, which we should be seeing more often because these are actual living things. They're actual characters, as we all know. So that was absolutely fantastic to see as a Transformers fan. It melted my heart because that is something I've been wanting to see in live action form for a long time. And it was great to see. And Ape Link's death was a fantastic setup to show how menacing and fierce Scourge will be as a villain for this whole movie. It was insane. Great opening sequence. The intro for Optimus Prime was absolutely awesome. I smiled. The amount of happiness and warmth I felt and the smile on my face when Optimus's entrance with the whole transwarp thing, and then when he came in and transformed, the music was very heroic and powerful sounding, and how he transformed and walked into the warehouse, which was the Autobots' base. It was just fantastic, absolutely awesome. Hats off to Stephen Caple Jr. and the cinematographer for that. The horror aspects were awesome. My mom, I went to go see it with my parents, my mom and dad, and my mom actually had a jump scare during one of the scenes when Elena and Noah were in the cave and one of the freezers jumped out. My mom went like, she legit jumped out of her seat almost, and it was pretty funny. Me and my mom were laughing at that together. So yeah, horror aspects were handled pretty well in my opinion. The Transformers focus and them actually feeling like characters in this movie, well done. Top freaking notch. Like I said, this feels like a live-action Transformers cartoon. You get it all. Interaction between each other, interaction with the characters. Each of them have their own distinct personalities, which is great. Something that was kind of lacking from the Bayverse. Everybody was sort of just like, oh, what's up, dude? Blah, 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 blah. So everybody actually felt like a cohesive Transformers character, everybody separately. It was great. Optimus actually made jokes in this movie. He makes multiple jokes, like 3 of them. There was one towards the beginning, before the museum fight, when Bumblebee is talking and he has a reference to a movie, and Optimus is like, we should not take you to any drive-in theaters. That was absolutely funny. Like, people were actually laughing in the theater. My dad laughed at that, which was pretty cool. And there was one where Mirage and Noah, they roll up and transform that scene in the first teaser trailer, and Optimus is like, way to be incognito, Mirage. and that was funny, just the whole line delivery, and Mirage is like, come on, Prime, be a little bit more positive. Let me see that underbite. It was absolutely awesome. And then there was one towards the end when Primal kills Battletrap, and he does it all quickly, and Optimus was like, I wanted that to be mine, or something along those lines. So he makes like 3 jokes in this movie, which you never see in live action form, and even in some recent cartoons like Cyberverse or Prime. So that was fantastic to see. Optimus was actually a character with emotion in this. It was fantastic. Absolutely amazing. Human characters were good and not bloated this time around like in the Bayverse or even in Bumblebee. They kept it short, simple, and sweet, and they got right into the action and into the Transformers themselves. So hats off to them for handling it. Noah and Elena, Anthony Ramos, Dominic Fishback, they did a fantastic job. I even liked Toby Nwigwe as Reek. He was a great character. He brought some livelihood to the scenes that he was in. It was really cool. And the Transformers actually talked in vehicle mode. That's something we rarely had in the Bayverse. I think Hot Rod was like the only one that did it, and that was in The Last Night, one of the worst movies I've probably ever seen. And they do it a lot. Mirage does it a lot. Optimus does it. Bumblebee, RC, Wheeljack, they all do it. They all freaking do it, except for the Terracons. Everybody talks in their alternate modes in this movie. Obviously, the Maximals do. It was fantastic to see. They do it in the Peru city scene when they have the stakeout. It was great. It was really funny and cool. Optimus's characterization and arc, his character arc in this movie was top-notch. A bit rushed, you know, because of how fast and short the movie is, but absolutely great to see. His lines and the emotion you feel for Optimus in certain scenes is great, in the parallel between Noah and Optimus only wanting to help their own kind, but at the end coming together and forming an alliance to stop the bad guys, the Terracons. A real till all are one aspect to this movie, and that's the running theme. They say it multiple times in this movie, which really caught me off guard and was awesome and surprising. They say till all are one at least like four or five times in this movie, which is great. Fight scenes being clear and choreographed in this, we saw that in the trailers, it would be like this, but seeing it in the theaters and seeing the whole scenes play out, top notch, absolutely awesome. There are some issues I have with the fight scenes that I'll touch on in my cons, which are coming up here soon, but fight scenes were great. Elena and Airazor's friendship, that was pretty heartwarming, you know. I really loved that. I wish I saw more of it, actually, you know. Airazor's death and how Elena reacts to that, she cries and it's all shocking. It's a really sad moment, and you really feel for Elena because it seemed like her and Airazor were starting to really bond and have a good relationship with each other. And it seems like Elena was missing that in her personal life when we see her struggling with a job and work, and her talking about her family and stuff like that. So it seems like that was something that she was really missing in her personal life, and it felt like she got that with Airazor. Soundtrack was great. The rap music they played, hip-hop, y'all know me. That's one of my main favorite music to listen to, and it was fantastic. They had a lot of great 90s tracks in there. Optimus Primal, he was a badass. He stole the show multiple times. His lines, there was a line where Optimus Prime was a bit, forceful, as he is in this movie. That's his whole character arc. And Optimus Primal is like, that's not the Prime I knew of. And the way he said it and delivered it was just great to hear. Scourge's lines were awesome. He's menacing, the typical villain, you know. It was just great to hear. Unicron and him torturing Scourge, much like his other iterations in G1 between Galvatron, that was great to see. Their relationship, they allude to a lot that is not explained in this movie, so I hope they explain it somehow in a sequel or a spin-off or something, or a graphic novel even. The movie was really fast-paced, which was a great difference compared to the Bayverse. This movie's only 2 hours if you're not counting credits, which could lead to some things that are cons, which I'll touch on a bit later. Mirage was cool. He was funny. I was expecting to kind of be annoyed by Mirage and not really care for him, but I really do, especially in his death scene, which was pretty cool, and how he came back to life in the end credit scene. I thought it was all really well done. And the comedy, to tie it all off, was really well done. You know, I think it worked. It worked for what they were trying to go for, which seemed like a live-action Transformers cartoon, like I keep saying. It was fantastic. Now, let's get into the cons here, people. I don't have as many cons as you might think, because I absolutely love this movie. I think it's really great. The battles were slightly hard to follow in darker settings, and it's only in 2 battles. It's during the museum fight and the final battle. At times it gets a little blurry and the camera's a bit too close up on the action and it's a bit hard to tell. Or maybe that was just my experience in the theater because the kids were, taking me out of the whole experience at times. But I did notice that a little bit, but not too big of a deal. The score was infinitely better than the Bumblebee movie. I gotta give Bon Taps to that, but it wasn't as iconic as I would wanted it to be in certain scenes. I don't know, maybe I gotta rewatch the movie again. But there were certain score elements that were really crazy and awesome. But a lot of the times I was like, I didn't really pay attention to the music all that much. I didn't think it was that moving. Um, but again, way better than the B movie, I thought. Pacing could have slowed down at times to really reel in and show the characters and how they interact with each other, specifically Airazor and Elena's relationship, Optimus Primal and Optimus Prime, explaining more of the backstory between the Maximals, giving Rhinox and Cheetor more of characterization and more lines. I think that could have benefited another 10, 15, 20 minutes to the movie, honestly. I really wanted more from this. But again, I think that could have been a plus too, because a lot of these movies have been bloated, so... The Terracons, as much as they were great villains, they felt very generic and flat at times, especially Nightbird and Battletrap. They barely do anything except say a couple villainous, evil, and scary lines and die. That's about it. They have a few badass moments, say some cool things, and they die. Call me a bit generic too for wanting a bit of a good guy backstory or just something a bit more, interesting for the villains that we've gotten in more recent years with villains. But it just felt a little bit generic at times. Rhinox and Cheetor being sidelined, I didn't really like I mentioned a minute ago. Wheeljack does almost nothing in this movie except giving coordinates to some location. I'm drawing a blank on what it exactly was, but other than that, he's just a background character, basically. He has a few lines, you see him fighting at times, and that's about it. A bit disappointing. Optimus's lines felt a bit redundant at times. I absolutely love Optimus in this movie, but at times the lines were a bit, I don't want to say cheesy, I think redundant is the perfect word here. He says this cannot be at least, I want to say, 3 times, and it's kind of noticeable, at least to me. RC did a little more than Wheeljack, Rhinox, and Cheetor, but she did feel a bit stale and flat for her character. She's just kind of there a lot of the times, but she does add some value to certain scenes, and her line delivery is very good. Props to Liza Koji for her voice acting. I thought it was absolutely great. And the last thing that I have written down here for cons, Bumblebee's death. It felt like absolutely nothing. I know the kids in the theater, the annoying kids, were like, "Oh no, Bumblebee, no!" But Bumblebee's death, man, we just had that in the Bumblebee movie, and now we're getting it again, and it's like, come on. It couldn't have been somebody else to, revive and bring back or something. I don't know who, but just something different, or not have that in the movie at all. And even the revival was a bit rushed and weak in my opinion. Again, another con for the fast pacing of this movie. The revival, some energon boost happens from the transwarp bridge, and Stratosphere is like, Energon! And then Bumblebee arises, and then all of a sudden you see Bumblebee jump out of Stratosphere, which is pretty epic. Everybody was going crazy in the theater. I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. Mama Said Knock You Out, played by LL Cool J, which was great, but just the whole thing felt a bit boring to me. Bumblebee's death and the revival, it felt redundant. We've seen this before in the movies, in other Transformers medias, so I don't know. But that's about it for the cons. Not a lot here. It's minor things, some things that are kind of significant, but the pros really outweigh the cons. This is a great Transformers movie. So as I'm editing my review here, I totally forgot to mention the G.I. Joe ending scene. I know I've talked about it multiple times on the channel since the news broke and it was leaked a few weeks back. Maybe that's why I subconsciously didn't mention it in the review. But what an ending to Rise of the Beast, am I right? I'm looking forward to it. I used to love G.I. Joe when I was a little kid. I still like G.I. Joe to this day, so I'm really curious to see how they handle it in the sequel. Hopefully it's done right. If Stephen Campbell Jr. is brought back on, as he should be, because it seems like this will be his vision for the trilogy and the series going forward. I hope it's done right, and I have some faith in them, especially if they bring back Stephen Campbell Jr. with how Rise of the Beast turned out. So, yo, Joe, bring on the Joes for the sequel. I'm excited. I know some people aren't, but whatever. Pretty crazy ending, am I right? A pretty cool movie in itself if you're not counting it for Transformers and you're just talking about a movie. Really entertaining, fun, popcorn, action summer movie. That's pretty much all there is to this movie, and it's really well done. Props to Stephen Caple Jr., everybody involved in this movie, even Lorenzo. I gotta give Lorenzo his credit. It seems like he's learning his lessons here, at least some of them, you know. I mean, he's still trying to play this off as a prequel, which it clearly isn't, by the way. I repeat, this is not a prequel. This is a clear reboot because Unicron does not become Earth at the end of this movie. Just throwing that out there. Now, my rating. I feel like I'm giving a rating here because I feel like this perfectly encapsulates how I feel about this movie. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. The pros really outweigh the cons. I know a lot of people, and even fans especially, are giving this like a 7.5, 7, or a 6 out of 10 because they think it's great but a bit generic, but I really feel like this is the Transformers movie us fans, and even, you know, casual fans have been wanting for a long time, at least since the troubles of the last night, 6 years ago, you know, so I really feel like this movie is worth watching in the theaters. Don't wait until this is out and streaming. Go out and support this movie if you want a clear sequel to this and you don't have to wait 10 years for the third reboot. So I'd watch this movie in the theaters. What are you waiting for? Go see this. This movie is really great and entertaining. I loved it. I loved it. There's not much else to say. I love this movie. Go check it out. Thank y'all for watching this video. Let me know down in the comments below. What do you guys think about Rise of the Beast? Sound off in the comments below. And be warned, there are going to be spoilers in the comments. So if you don't want to read it, don't read the comments. But sound off in the comments below. Spoilers and all. What do you guys think about this movie? And I'll catch y'all next video. Bye!